Peace everyone, Unmasked Art here, and welcome back to the Drawing Journal. So the topic of this video is kind of focused around how to know when your artwork is finished, how to get to that finishing stage, and like what is the finishing stage feel like or look like, and what are the things that you should be thinking about when you're wrapping up a piece. So beyond that major topic for today's live stream, I also want to mention that I announced the winners of last week's giveaway, the 30,000 subscriber giveaway. So 5 winners have been chosen. I don't think I'm going to mention too much about the winners in particular in this live stream, because those 5 winners, they have to see that video and they have to email me before next week, because next Monday I will also post another video if any of the winners don't contact me. So that's something that's really important for the winners. So if you know that you're a winner, congratulations. And if you don't email me, you will miss out on your prize. So make sure you email me. You don't want to miss that. Anyways, hello Jamie, Garbord, Blossom, Hildy, Barian, Andrea, Rob, Gihan, and Jeff. Hello everyone. Hope you had an awesome weekend. Hopefully it was as good as my weekend. I had a nice weekend. But there's one other thing that I want to get to before I start coloring and talking about today's subject. Is I posted over in the Unmasked Family Facebook page that you could share some of your finished pieces, and I'd share them on today's live stream, kind of give you guys some constructive input on your work. And so let's just go ahead and get right into it. Let me just pull up my screen here so I can see everybody's work a little bit better. And I liked the work that I saw, that came across the Facebook fan page. So thank you to all of those that posted their work. And if you missed it, don't worry about it. I'll do this again. I'll do this again sometime. So no worries. So let's start with the first image here. This one is from Lowella. She did the deer pastel tutorial that I did a couple weeks ago. Very, very nice deer, Lowella. And from my understanding, this is one of your first pastel pieces, or you're just getting started with pastels. And let me just say that I really, really like your background. First off, your background is very soft. You maintained a blurry effect overall with the background, and I know some people, they struggle with that, ironically, because they want to bring in more details. They want to bring in more texture to make it look what their mind thinks they're seeing. But you stayed soft in the background. You didn't oversaturate your colors. You didn't go really dark with your contrast. You didn't go deep with the blacks or anything. So you did really, really well with the background, for sure. Now onto the main subject, the deer. You also did a fantastic job with the deer. You have great contrast, you have good details. Your ears are fantastic. They look very translucent. You were able to capture that kind of orange glowing light piercing the thin skin of the ears. You did a really good job on that. Now the eyes are also quite good. The deer's right eye looks like the highlight may be a little bit too large for the eye overall, kind of giving it a foggy look. So you could probably darken up the pupil area on that eye and then maybe add in some of the eyelashes. One of the things that I noticed that not a lot of flyaway hairs coming off the deer. Perhaps you're still somewhat in work in progress there, or you just wanted some input so that you could continue on. Lowella, are you in the chat? I didn't see you come in though. If you are here, hello. If you are, I might have missed it. but the nose is fantastic. Great contrast and detail there. The mouth, you didn't like overdo the mouth area, making it look kind of cartoonish. So you did a really good job there. You also did a good job on the contrast, kind of getting that light established where the left side of the deer is highlighted, but the right side is where the shadow begins. So you did a good job there. I would say overall your texture is good in the body of the deer because you don't want to bring too much focus to that, but the face could have a bit more texture. So you could go in there and add those little really teeny tiny hairs to get the full effect of fur. But other than that, really, really excellent job. So let's go on to image 2 here. This one is from Mariola. I love this picture. I really do. I love this picture. It looks like you may have used like a gold gel pen or even just gold leaf in the dress of this woman here. And I really, really like that combination with the blue. I love the facial expression. You did a really good job at capturing the skin tones and not using black in the shadows on the skin. That's something that a lot of people kind of get stuck with when they want to create deeper shadows in skin. Sometimes they mistakenly reach for black to mix in with their other colors, but it doesn't appear as though you did that. So the skin came out really good. And I remember reading when you posted this that you're struggling a little bit with the skin, and that's fine too. I'll give you some pointers on there. I love the detail on the dress and the overall composition of this piece. A few things that you could work on: the skin tones, of course. You could definitely work on the skin tones. And I don't want to mistake, but I think you were using a combination of pencils here. I could go back and read it, but I don't want to do that. Regardless, if you are using luminance, a couple colors that I would suggest, and if you're not using luminance, perhaps just go out and buy these single pencils to help kind of bring your skin to life a little bit more. The two colors that I would suggest are Luminance 866. It's a really great shadow color. It's kind of a reddish brown, and it works wonders in the shadows for those deeper shadows as opposed to, going for black. And then also 862. 862 is like that clay rose color that I've talked about 100 times before. It's just a must-have color when ever doing a portrait. It doesn't matter what the skin tone is. I guarantee clay rose is in the skin tone. So definitely check out those two colors. The other thing is, when you're layering your colors down for your skin, just do your layers nice and slow. That will allow the blending between two different colors to be a bit more soft, because if you noticed, you have the cheekbone here kind of accentuated almost as though she's wearing makeup, and she could be wearing makeup there, a little bronzer or something right there underneath her cheekbone to make her cheekbone come out a little bit, but it's a little sharp. And to get rid of that sharpness, you'll just want to fade the edges of the colors so that they transition from one to the other a little bit smoothly. Same thing happens with her anatomy on her neck. Some of the shadows are a bit sharp, and to get rid of that, you just want to layer a bit slower and add more layers so that your colors kind of blend together a bit more. The other thing that I think you could work on is probably the hair. Now, based on the photograph that you took of your work here, I would say with the hair, it looks like you may be approaching hair as drawing every strand of hair that you see. And what you get is when you take that approach with hair, you usually get a really stiff look with the hair. And it kind of has this, like, it's not flowy, it's not able to move, and that's the way the hair in this particular portrait kind of comes off looking as. So when you're doing hair, try to be a little bit looser. Don't draw every individual hair stroke or strand of hair. I have a number of tutorials on hair, so you can check those out to get a few better ideas on how to do hair. But other than that, wonderful picture, and thank you for sharing it. The next one here is from Megan. I loved this picture. This one is super great. The facial expression on the dog is just fantastic. The pose and composition of this piece is just awesome. I love German Shepherds. They're such gorgeous dogs. There's not a whole lot that I can give you as far as input on this. There's a couple things. One is from my perspective, I could be wrong here, but for me, it appears as though the light is coming from the right side of the dog. So that is why the dog's left side of the face is a bit darker. But I feel like you lose that sense of lighting in the chest area of the dog. I feel like the dog's left shoulder and the hair on that side should be a little bit darker. That would help reinforce that lighting and really just make the rest of the details on the right side pop out a lot more. The other thing is the tail. The fur on the tail looks almost too perfect. And what I mean by that is it appears as though all the hairs had been like brushed perfectly straight and have this very consistent, almost pattern-like pattern to it. And usually you want to avoid creating those perfect patterns in your artwork because they look artificial. So you could probably free up some of the fur on the tail a little bit, kind of break it up, not make it so uniform, and that would help the tail look a little bit more natural than it does right there. The other thing that is very, very small, but the cast shadow. So the cast shadow also reinforces this idea that I had that the light is off to the right side of the dog. But the cast shadow actually is not in perspective with the way the dog is laying and the way the ground appears to be. And it's only because of one part of the shadow, and it's the shadow that goes up the left shoulder of the dog. So it goes up too high, making the shadow look like it's being cast backwards, as though the light is actually in front of the dog. And what you'd want to do is stop that shadow a little bit lower. That way the shadow looks like it's dropping off towards the left side of the dog. So yeah, but other than that, fantastic work. I love this picture. All right, let's go to number 4. This one is a tattoo from Kris. I'm glad that you actually went out of the box and felt comfortable sharing tattoo work. I'm not a professional tattooist. I've never tattooed anybody in my life. I have a couple tattoos, as you guys know, but so I can't really give a whole lot of feedback on this. The one thing I will say is that I think that the tattoo would benefit a lot if you had a mid-tone gray. So it looks like it's just black ink. If you could somehow incorporate a bit of mid-range gray in there to kind of smooth out the transitions between the skin and the dark shadows, I think that would add a lot of depth to the tattoo. But that's literally all I can say about it. It's great work, and I hope to see more. Let's see, what is the next one? The next one is from Heidi. She did a little color pencil piece on toned paper of her cat, and she did a fantastic job. Great job, Heidi. The composition is really good for a pet portrait. You know, it has a really solid rule of thirds there. So great composition. The fur. So there's two things that I can say right off the bat. You probably didn't add enough layers of your colored pencils don't be afraid to keep layering with those pencils to really cover up the paper. If you were going for the effect where you're letting some of the paper show through, that's totally understandable. However, I think that this picture would probably benefit from 2 or even 3 more layers of your colored pencils. The other thing is, don't be afraid to go outside your comfort zone with some colors. I would love to see maybe some blues or purples or even reds in the dark black parts of the fur. That will just help give your fur some light and just create kind of an atmosphere around the animal. And then also with the white fur, you know, you can reach for some cooler colors like blue and purple as well, or you could go a bit warmer with the browns and the yellows. So don't be afraid of adding a bit of color interest into your fur. And then also always remember to maintain a disciplined pencil stroke with the direction that you color fur. You always want to go in the direction that the fur is growing. It's very important. Other than that, the eyes are really great. They have nice depth. Again, I think you could have probably added a bit more layers in the eyes to really ground the picture. But you did a really good job, so keep it up. All right, let's see, where am I at here? Number 6. Okay, this one was sent in by Rob, and I love this picture. I honestly wish that I had the reference photo because I would like to draw this picture. I love the yoga pose. I love the pants, the colors, but most of all, I love the lighting of this picture. It's kind of subtle the way that it's colored right now, but a few things that reinforce it is the cast shadow on her left arm, and then also the drop shadow that is running off the page to the right. I love the detail in the pants. It must have been a lot of fun doing all that tiny little detail. The drawing didn't look very large either, so you really got in there with the detail. What else do I like about this image? The pose is great, the composition is great, the colors are great. I really like it. Now, I don't want to say what a lot of people criticizing this might say, and that's like maybe you could go a little bit heavier on the contrast. I don't think so. I actually like the soft contrast of this drawing, particularly because it makes it look like it's glowing more. I think if you were to go too heavy with the contrast, then it wouldn't have that same feeling of like light glowing from the image. So I like the contrast kind of packed in there in the middle. What I do think you could do is probably add a bit more color, especially some purples, into the skin tone where the shadows are. So I'm not sure which pencils you are using. If you're using luminance, definitely reach for the 862. If you're using polychromos, reach for, let's see, you could add a little bit of the 135 polychromos, or if you're using Prismacolors, definitely the 1019 or the 1017. So those colors there in the shadows will really help bring that skin back to life, because right now it looks a little two-toned, where you have a highlight color of the skin, which is that yellowish color, and then you have the more orange reddish shadow part of the skin. So I think adding a little bit of purple into the skin will help bring it to life just a bit more. Other than that, you could go with another layer on the shirt, make the shirt a nice solid fully cover the paper on the shirt. Use your grays. Don't go darker with the shirt, just go more layers with the shirt with the same grays and things like that. Okay, so it was polychromos. That's you, Rob 2259100. All right, cool. Oh, hello, Chrissy and Tracy, Kristen, Miriam, Nanette, Lady Marigold. You're very welcome, Rob. Love the drawing. Definitely keep it up. All right, let's move on. So you said polychromos. So Yeah, Polychromos doesn't quite have the purples that I like, but you could probably use like a light layer of the 135, like super light. Just use it as kind of a toning color in the shadows, and I think you'll like the result of that. Here is one from Fabiana, a beautiful blue jay, full contrast. So kind of complementary to Rob's piece. This one has just a ton of contrast in it. Could also be a little bit of the photograph as well, but super saturated blue. I love it, especially with the green yellow background. It has just a wonderful contrast, kind of almost a complement with the background. I do see a little bit of orange right there in the mid tone of the background. So there's some play with the contrast colors. I like that. Jamie, how do I store my pencils? I store my pencils in their original box in the factory position, kind of OCD in that way. So I have all of my original boxes of my pencils and I keep them in the same identical position, and I also make my color charts in the order in which they come in the box. So I can always look at my color chart and know exactly where in my box I need to find the pencil. So it kind of makes my life a little bit easier. Anyways, back to this piece. Yes, everything is working great. Love the details and the feathers. The tail feathers are great. A few things that I think could probably be added to this is some more layering on the back and the back of the neck of the bird. The feathers look a little underdeveloped in comparison to the tail feathers. The tail feathers look they kind of steal the show for me in this particular piece. And you don't really want that. You kind of want the whole bird to stand out. And I feel like the back of the neck and like the back upper shoulder area looks a little light and a little underdeveloped as far as the drawing goes, which kind of makes the eye drop down towards the tail feathers a little bit more, as opposed to like the head of the bird. So you could probably add a bit more layers to those to just bring those feathers out just a bit more, perhaps. And then also a little tip with the background, because it looks like you're kind of going for that bouquet looking background, is to take, let me grab one really quick. So to grab one of these things right here, a circle stencil, and you can lay that onto your piece, take a white pencil and lightly color in some of these circles, and then use a bit of solvent, tiniest amount of solvent, basically dry brush, to smooth out that white pencil to give you those really clean bouquet circles. I have a tutorial where I did this, did it like 2 years ago or something, but how to create bouquet backgrounds with colored pencils. So you could probably steal a couple tips from that, just to you know, create a softer looking background. All right, next image, number 8. So this one is from Darren, and if I'm not mistaken, this is actually a 3D rendered image. So he wasn't sure whether or not I'd share it, but he wanted some comments on it, so I'm happy to do that. I hope that you created this, Darren, otherwise I'm kind of confused why you'd want my comments. But I like the composition, the character Smeagol from Lord of the Rings, very cool. So I also want to mention that I brightened this image a little bit because it was really dark, and it looked great. It looked good, dark and kind of dramatic. The few things that I think could help improve this image is the color of the light. So you have a very cool image, meaning that it has like the bluers and the kind of steel grays in the rocks and the waters and the shadows and things, and the light appears to be a sunset. It seems to be where the sun is lower in the sky. You can tell because the shadows are a bit longer and it's not as bright. So because of that, when the sun gets lower, you get that effect where the light turns kind of the golden colors. So I think it would be best to incorporate some of those golden colors of the sunlight into the skin to just create a bit more life into this image. And then you could also add a bit of texture to the water. I realize that you want that clean, reflective look so that you can see the reflection of your character here. And then I hope you didn't think I was going to miss the fact that the face in the water is different than the face not in the water. So you have that duality that Smeagol often is known for in the movies. The other thing is the separation between the rocks and the water. There's no water. The thing is, there's no natural water that is that perfectly reflective. So you got to add a little bit of motion in the water, especially around the rocks, to kind of break that water edge up a little bit. But other than that, it's a really fantastic image. Wait, what was that? Is that 7? I scrolled it. Okay, it was 8. Here's number 9. This one's from Piotr, and his graphite drawing of Thanos, which I loved. If you haven't seen the new Marvel Avengers movie, I have to recommend that. The movie was super awesome. Couldn't believe they were able to fit that many characters into it and still make it coherent and as good as it turned out to be. So the drawing is great. The anatomy is good. The likeness appears to be spot on. So there's not much to improve here. You did everything really great. There's kind of 2 things that I think would benefit this drawing. Is the first thing is contrast. So for the most part, there's no true black here, and what that does to the overall image is it kind of leaves the viewer unsure of where to look. So usually with portraits, you want the viewer to be looking in your character's eyes. So that's where you want to focus your contrast and your detail most of the time. So you could deepen the eyes with another layer of dark graphite, kind of get the eyelashes darkened a bit, bring out the eyebrows to accentuate the kind of focused expression in his face. Be careful with the lines down the cheeks, the smile lines. You don't want to deepen those too much. But the crease of the mouth, you could also darken that a little bit more to kind of ground his mouth a bit better, and then also sharpen up some of the details in his armor around his neck as well. So that is something that you could do with the contrast, and then also with the background. So you're using basically the same values in the background as you are in the skin, and so you want to change that up a little bit. Either make his skin darker overall or make the background darker overall. You want to have a nice separation between the background and the foreground. That will help him stand out really, really nicely. But excellent job, Piotr. All right, number 10. Only 2 left here. So number 10, a lot of people really like this one over on the Facebook page, and can't blame them. This drawing is fantastic. It's hard to believe that it is a drawing, but I can assure you that it is. When you shrink it down even smaller, it looks just that much more like a photograph. The things working with this is essentially everything. The eyes, this is a perfect example as to what the contrast in the eyes does for a drawing. You immediately look at this picture here and you're drawn to the eyes because the contrast and the focus is right there with the eyes. And then you have the pleasure of looking at the tongue. The tongue has flawless texture. Honestly, I don't even know if I draw this good, so I'm not sure what you expect me to say here. The other thing that works super well with this Lucia is your depth of field. you have the contrast, you have the texture and the detail focused with the mouth and the eyes. You then fade that detail and contrast as you get farther and farther away from the eyes. You do this perfectly so that even when you try to look over at a different section of the drawing, your eyes are forced back to look at this little kitten in the eyes. So honestly, I can't think of a single thing that I would do to this particular piece to make it better. So you stumped me. Good job. The final image here is a pastel piece done by Heather. I think the photograph might be a little softened, so it doesn't have quite the contrast that it probably does in person, so I'm going to ignore that. It looks like it's kind of grayed out a little bit from the photograph, so it could have just been the camera. But this is actually a pastel tutorial that I did about this time last year, if I'm not mistaken. I'm sure many of you remember it, but I've actually had a lot of people send me pictures of this particular galaxy pastel piece tutorial that I did last year. The shooting stars, the moon, and the clouds and stuff. You did a really good job, considering this is one of the first pastel pieces that you've completed. A few things that you could improve on is your control when blending. So it appears as though you blended the background a bit too much, which kind of desaturated your blues and pinks and purples that you added there. So you could go bolder. You could go much more bolder with your bright saturated colors in the background, and just be a little bit more controlled in your blending so that those colors don't get washed out the way they did so much as they did in this piece here. And I'm not sure if you mentioned, I remember you messaged me about this, and I don't remember if you only have the sticks and you don't have the pastel pencils to really get in there with the details. And if you do only have the sticks, you did great with the details. So yeah, keep at it, and thank you for sharing the piece with everybody. All right, that does it for all the artwork. Goodness, that took a little bit longer than I anticipated, but thank you all so much for posting in the Unmasked Art family those pieces so that I could share them on today's live stream. And I will post another one another time. So in the meantime, get to work, create some pieces so that we can share it with the family. And I'm going to pick up a pencil for once and start coloring here. Let's see, I probably missed a lot in the chat, but I don't really want to go back and spend a whole lot of time reading it right this second. So if you asked a question and I missed it, please just ask it again. Tag me in the chat so that I can see. Let's see, for those of us who don't use Facebook, can we post your work on a community tab? Will you see it there? Nanette, okay, so if you don't use Facebook, that's a good question. If you don't use Facebook, it would be better to email it to me, because the community tab on Patreon is, it's a little finicky, and I don't actually get very many notifications. Patreon's supposed to email me when people post in the community section. It's not the greatest format for doing that. So Nanette, just send me an email of a finished piece that you'd like me to talk about, and I'd be happy to do it. Kris, yes, I did go over the tattoo. Gave you some feedback. It was very good. All right, Piotr. Yeah, you definitely have some room for improvement on your Thanos, so definitely post it again in the family when you touch it up a bit. Totally awesome critiques. Thank you so much. Thank you, Rob, for sharing that awesome piece. That was a really good piece. Let's see. It was really great to see everyone's art and help you give us. Fantastic. Yes, I agree, Jeff. Yeah, it's a lot of fun to do. A lot of fun to do. So I appreciate you guys sending it in, and I hope that the feedback is helpful. If you have any questions, you know I'm always here to answer as many questions as I can in the time that I have. So I hope that the critique is helpful for you guys, not only for those of you that sent the work in, but also for those of you that were just watching and appreciating the work. Well, thank you, Blossom. Yes, it's my pleasure. Absolutely, Kris. So the piece that I'm working on right now is a still life project that I've been working on over on Patreon for the past few weeks, and we finished it up. The tutorial series is complete. Went over the background, the table, the pears, the plate, and this cloth here that you see. And I decided to only finish this section on the Patreon live stream and then save this section here for today's live stream because I didn't really have anything else to draw, and I wasn't going to do a pastel tutorial just yet. I'll probably do another a live pastel tutorial next week, so look out for that. I'll schedule it as soon as I can with the line art and all that fun stuff. So let's see, did I miss anything yet? Not sure if you know that I am Lowella, aka Blossom. Oh, Lowella. Oh, yes. Or Blossom. Okay, yes. Well, you're welcome for the critique. I hope that you found it insightful and helpful. Yeah, sometimes it's difficult for me to remember everybody's actual name in comparison to their screen name. So I'm glad everybody besides me knew that Blossom was also Lowella. I've done portraits of people, but don't know if they are any good. Well, Kristen, if you want to send me a picture of some of your portraits, I'd be happy to give you some feedback. Or you can just post one or two of them and ask for some critiques over in the Unmasked Art family. Usually it's, you know, I don't want, in the family group, it's not about like sharing finished work. It's all about learning. That's the whole purpose of the group that I set up. And so if you're looking to improve and you're not sure where to go with your portraits, or you're not sure where you need to go with your portraits, you can always ask the lovely family members that we have in the group, because a lot of great artists, as you just witnessed, because all of those pieces were submitted in the group. So I'm sure there's plenty of people there that can give you some input. What made me decide to do this in colored pencil instead of pastels? So over on Patreon, I do a variety of tutorials. Sometimes I do pastels, sometimes I do graphite. Well, one graphite. Sometimes I do colored pencils. Primarily, I stick to colored pencils because a lot of the people that support me over on Patreon, they want to learn more colored pencil work. And so I would say more than half of the tutorials on Patreon are in colored pencils. So I didn't decide to do this in colored pencils for any particular reason. It was just that I was doing a colored pencil tutorial, and a patron wanted me to kind of show how I would do cloth, like how I would create certain cloth textures with colored pencils. The funny thing is it actually took like 3 weeks to finally get to the cloth, but I picked this reference photo because of the cloth, and then last week we went over how to kind of quickly capture the texture of the cloth and the approach that I took. And essentially the approach is not hugely different than how I approach most of my colored pencil stuff. I use frequency separation, that whole theme technique that I've created, and once you have the base layers, you throw the texture over top, and then you're good. And depending on the texture of the cloth, just determines how you texturize it on your texturizing layer. Have I got something lined up for my next work? So Jamie, I think you may be referring to Patreon. And you know, I've had a lot of really fantastic suggestions for the next Patreon project, and I've really kind of caught the idea of wanting to do an elephant. I haven't gotten a reference photo for it yet, and I'm going to be streaming on Patreon on Thursday again. I might even just end up switching it to Thursdays as a regular thing, but yeah, I haven't quite settled on what I'm going to be doing for the next Patreon tutorial, and I'm not sure what I'm going to be doing for next week. So like I said, I'm most likely going to do a live pastel tutorial next week, like I've been doing up until the past couple weeks doing the drawing journal. I think what I want to do is probably switch on. One week I'll do a live pastel tutorial, the following week I'll do a drawing journal, or maybe I'll just switch to doing the drawing journal like once, maybe only twice a month or something, just depending on how I feel, or what you guys want to see, because I know a lot of people really enjoyed the live pastel tutorials, and I enjoyed doing them as well. So yeah, we'll just see. I don't want to burn myself out creatively. Sometimes if I force myself to create something on a live stream, it kind of, yeah, it drains me creatively a little bit sometimes. So I don't want to push myself too much, because then I'd end up giving you guys content that I'm not very satisfied with, and I would never want to do that. Like, I never want to give half-baked content. I always want to give my best. Please do an elephant, Miriam. Okay. Yeah, I want to do an elephant. It's gonna be a challenge finding a reference photo that I like. But if I do an elephant, should I do it in colored pencils or should I do it in pastels? That's the question. I'm new here. I've been drawing with polychromos for over 30 years. Goodness. That was all you could get in Australia many years ago. Well, Suzanne, or Susanna? Is it Suzanne or Susanna? I think it's Susanna. Well, welcome to the YouTube channel. Great to have you here. Do a Siamese cat or a yoga pose picture. I will send you. Truthfully, I have no rights to ask. I can't afford to support you yet. You know, Rob, if you send me that yoga pose picture, I might just have to do it. In fact, it would actually be kind of fun to do that with pastels. So last week I finished this one. So you guys saw me working on this one, I finished this pastel piece, it would almost be another addition to the challenge that this piece was with pastels, to do that yoga pose with pastels as well. And that would be kind of fun to maybe do a live stream. Maybe. I don't know. It's tough. Like, working that teeny tiny with the pastels, it's seriously a challenge. I don't know if I could do a live stream tutorial of it, but I could possibly work on it and then do it for the drawing journal. So I could maybe do something like that. But I do love that picture there. So Susanna says that she started portraits 2 weeks ago. The skin is really gritty, not smooth, and skin-like. Any help would be appreciated. That is a super good question. I don't have, actually I do. So, hold on a second. I know I got something here. I don't even know which one this is. So here's a quick little portrait study that I did with, I think this is, yeah, this is Prismacolor. This is Prismacolor. I kind of got it dirty right here, so ignore that spot on her forehead. But to get that skin-like texture, there's a few things that factor into the equation there. One is your paper choice. If you choose gritty paper, you can't get rid of the gritty texture of the paper, no matter how many layers you really do. The other thing is the pencil choice. So you mentioned that you've been using polychromos. Well, I would recommend that if you only have polychromos, Susanna, I would probably recommend expanding your colored pencil collection to include wax-based pencils like Prismacolor, or even better, Luminance. You'll find that thicker wax-based pencil is going to give you that smoother skin that you are looking for, whereas the polychromos, they're never really going to get there because of how translucent they are and how thin they lay down. So I've never actually taken the time to do a portrait only in polychromos, but I know that from my experience that I wouldn't even want to try, to be honest with you. The other thing that you could do with your paper choice, like I said, you could go with a smoother paper. So the portraits, when I do portraits, I like to do it on smooth paper. You can do it on the vellum paper. The paper that I'm using now is Stonehenge Vellum, and I've done portraits on it before, not totally satisfied with the skin on this paper. And the paper that I really like is the Strathmore Bristol Plate. That is my favorite paper to do portraits on. You get, the skin comes out really nice and smooth. Do the elephant in pastels. Okay. Oh goodness, how much did I miss? Oh, hello, Wendy. Didn't see you come in. Okay, all right. Let me do some more coloring here. You guys keep me super active. I feel like every time I live stream now, especially since I stand up when I work, it's like a workout, trying to keep up with the chat, keep up with your guys' questions. I love it. It makes the live streams a lot of fun for me, but it also makes them go really fast. Oh, hello, Shiny. Been here since the beginning, lurking while I eat. Okay, Wendy. Well, I'll just forever assume that you're lurking about, Wendy, every time I'm live. I'll just say hello, Wendy, knowing that you're always lurking in the background. Oh, and Anna. I don't think I said hello to Anna. I saw you here from the beginning, so let me say hello to you as well. And Steve. Gotta say hello to Steve. Everybody say hello to Steve. Steve is like, the dad of the chat, or the grandfather of the chat. You guys are great. I want to just keep reading the chat, but I know that I also have to draw. So it's hard to do both. I'm trying to like look at my reference photo and color and read the chat all at once. Thanks for answering my question. I'm using Fabriano Artistico hot press, and I'm using a combination of Prismacolor Luminance and Polychromos. I fear it's my technique that's the problem. Okay, well, I know that a lot of colored pencil artists love the Fabriano Artistico hot press 300 GSM watercolor paper. Just there's so much to the name of that paper. But if you've never branched out and tried the smoother paper, you might just be like me and like smoother paper. I don't know. I would suggest it. If you haven't tried the smoother papers, you need to buy a sheet for like a few dollars or whatever and test it out. You know, just do a couple small studies. You don't have to do like a full scale drawing or anything, Susanna. So I have a sheet of the Fabriano Artistico paper in my drawer over here. I have 4 pieces of it because I bought that really big, large piece, and I haven't tested it out yet. People swear by it, and a lot of the people that do swear by it, I trust their opinion greatly, and I haven't gotten to try it yet, and so I need to test it out. I should just do a live stream where I just try all of my papers or something. I don't know. I don't even know how I would do that, but I've tried other watercolor papers in the past, and I just despised them entirely. So I didn't really think that I was going to like the Artistico paper either, but I decided to buy one sheet, and I haven't tested it out yet. So I need to get on that. Those pearls look amazing, by the way, especially that one in front. Wait, what? What pearls? Am I missing something? Oh, you're not saying pearls, you're saying pears. I was like, pearls? What pearls? I was really confused there, Anna. But yeah, just a small typo. That would be great. I have Artistico, but don't like it. I got some sort of Stonehenge and love that. Yeah, Jamie, paper, I think I say it probably too much, but paper is 100%, like a personal thing. You can go through all the pencils in the world and not like any of them, but it would just come down to you using a paper that you actually don't like. What are my thoughts of using an alcohol wash as an underpainting for pastel pieces? So I've come across a few tutorials, a few demonstrations of using a wash of different sorts. Basically, you take your pastels and you can use alcohol, you can use a solvent of any other kind. I think even people have used water, actually, if I'm not mistaken. But I've actually tried it. I did it in a sky a really long time ago. Funny thing is, I actually sold the piece, so I don't have it to show you guys what I did. But I did it off camera, if I'm not mistaken, so I don't have it on video. But it worked fine, but in the long term of the piece, I didn't see much benefit to it. It didn't speed it up for me. And the thing I like about pastels is they're quick. They're quick, they're easy, you don't need a lot of stuff. And I don't actually like the idea of adding a wet source of anything to the pastels because I like the dryness of them. If I could get colored pencils to just blend without any wet solvent necessary, then that's what I would probably go for. But we all know that's not the case with colored pencils. You have to have the wet medium to get them to do anything. And I think that's why I really like the pastels, is that you don't need that with pastels. So I mean, it's not like I'm against doing the washes. I mean, if it works for you, if you enjoy it, by all means have fun with it. I think I'm just going to keep it simple for now with my pastels. Let's see. Hopefully I didn't miss anything else. If you guys have any questions that I missed, feel free to ask them again if I missed them. Did anybody do anything fun over the weekend? For me, I think I can officially say that I have some Polish friends now. For the past 2 weeks now, each Sunday I've went out and with some of the friends that I play Magic with, and we had a little fire in the woods a couple kilometers that way. And I brought some vegan hot dogs and cooked them over the fire. That's what I did yesterday. It was a lot of fun. Wife came with me. Good times. Just hanging out, getting to know each other. Yes, don't use baby oil. Who brought up baby oil? Yeah, no baby oils allowed on this channel. I went for a day hike with my dog, got some nice photos. I think I saw some of your photos on it. May do some landscape painting. Awesome. Can I speak Polish? Nie mówię po polsku. Przepraszam. Am I learning Polish? No. Well, I lie. I'm always kind of learning Polish a little bit. There's always something that I'm picking up, but it's a slow. I can't even say slow, steady process. It's just slow. Would I consider doing a weeping willow tree or a grove of willows in pastel? Absolutely, I would definitely consider doing that. I have nothing against weeping willows. My daughter uses baby oil on her baby daughter. That's fine. That's fine. As long as she doesn't also use that baby oil on her colored pencil work. What should you use to blend colored pencils? You should use a solvent like Zest It or odorless mineral spirits. I think alcohol works, but I'm not sure how well it works. I've never tried it. But baby oil will blend colored pencils, but it will also turn your paper yellow. So don't use baby oil. Yes, learning a new language is very difficult for sure. Yeah, and Polish is not a friendly language to learn. Sometimes it just feels so random. I know it's not in most cases because I have studied it quite a bit, but it's just hard. And to be honest with you, since I'm always doing YouTube stuff and drawing and live streaming and making videos, I don't get out a whole lot. So I'm not out and about speaking the language with many people. Not that I could go out and speak the language anyway, but it is nice to hear it often. So I've gotten pretty good with my listening comprehension. I can understand quite a bit. Sometimes it's even impressive to me when I can follow a conversation to some mild degree. On the topic of baby oil, I found the recommendation from Faber-Castell. They even recommended salad oil. That is, yeah. I think you were pointing it out to me on our last class, and I couldn't believe that Faber-Castell recommends using baby oil. And the thought of salad oil, just, I can't even imagine why anybody would recommend that. Yes, unforgivable suggestions from Faber-Castell. Goodness. Sometimes. I had a vision of me last week as Rapunzel, stuck in your tower while your wife is at work because all the townsfolk speak Polish and you don't care because you're in your secret YouTube royal family. Yeah, that's basically how it is. Yeah. It's why I'm growing my locks so long, so that I can throw them off the balcony and bring some of my subscribers up to my fortress of solitude here. Actually, I don't know how well you can see them, but they're getting pretty long. They're almost to the length where I didn't want. When they were like here, when they were, goodness, that much shorter, I always said I don't want them like lower than this, like lower than here. But now that they're there, I don't really mind it. I really don't think I want them much longer than they are now, though, because they are heavy. It's like walking around like this because they weigh my head down so much. I hate to admit this, but I have to adjust my diet for life. Can't go around biting cows anymore. Do some tutorials on vegan cooking. I could maybe do a couple. Let's see. How many of you guys would be interested in me maybe throwing together 1 or 2 videos on maybe cooking some of my favorite food or something like that? Let me know. Let me know in the chat how many of those of you would be interested. Yeah, I think if I were to cut all of my locks off, I could probably lose maybe about 2 kilos or something. They're heavy, especially when they're wet. Oh my goodness. When they're wet, it's like draping a wet towel from your head. That's what it feels like. Yes, cooking tutorial. I knew you. I knew even in your creeping status, Wendy, you would chime in. I'd watch your vegan videos. Yeah, Wendy has been on me about starting another YouTube channel about cooking, because she's on my Facebook page, my personal Facebook page, and she gets to see all the food that I cook, because I like to take pictures of the delicious vegan food that I cook, and she's always telling me to start another YouTube channel so that I can share my recipes and make food tutorials. I would I suppose I could probably make 1 or 2. I might draw some vegan food, but I wouldn't like eating it. I bet even your cooking is artful and your presentation will be worth a Michelin star. I'd watch. Not sure I'd like vegan food very much. Well, I can assure you that you would like vegan food, because a lot of things that you eat that aren't vegan can easily be turned into vegan. Potato salad. I know a lot of people like potato salad. My wife will destroy any potato salad that anybody else could make using, egg-based mayonnaise or milk or whatever other people put in their potato salad. She makes the best potato salad on the planet. The best, hands down. I mean, I wasn't vegan my entire life, and I come from America, so Americans love potato salad. I've had a ton of different potato salads in my life. But my wife made a potato salad like first time last year, I think, and it was just the best, absolutely the best. I am confused shading what I must color use for shading things. It depends on what you're coloring. Show the picture on Monday? Show what picture? Plate presentation is an art form. Yes. Well, let me see here. Let me grab something. Let me go to my Facebook page. I'll show you guys. Let me show you something that I've cooked. Let me see here. I got plenty. I got plenty of things that I've cooked. Let's see. Where's all the food? My photos. Okay, here we go. Let's see. What's something good? How about some vegan donuts? Oh no, this is it. I gotta share this one. This one is probably one of my all-time favorites. So let me get this picture here real quick for everyone. I gotta go pick up the son from school. Okay, Rob, thanks for sharing your artwork again. Look forward to an email from you, and take care. Tell your son I said hi. All right, let me get this picture pulled up. I'm just gonna put this pencil down. The idea that I am even drawing right now is a joke. I'm literally just having conversation with all you people. All right, let me get this image. Is this it? Where is it at? Ah, here it is. Yes. Bam. Whoa. Let's bring that down a little bit. I gotta, let's, okay, I'll just do this and I can shrink it. There we go. So this is a food that I made. This would be a homemade tortilla. So I made the tortilla from scratch. It's just basically water, flour, salt, a little bit of oil maybe. And then, of course, I got some fresh tomato, I got some onion, and then I have a little bit of my homemade vegan mayonnaise, which is super easy to make in a blender. And then what you see there that looks like fried chicken is actually my deep fried mushrooms that taste exactly like chicken. It's been a long time since I've had chicken, but I didn't forget what it looks like. And that wrap, that buffalo chicken wrap right there is super, super good. It's so easy to make. Anyways, there's some food for you guys. I just had to share that. Maybe I'll throw together a video this week or next. Actually, my wife has some time off. My wife actually has some days off for once, and so maybe on her days off we will we'll make a little video cooking a meal or something. I don't know what we'll make. Probably make pierogi or something. Yes, Petka, Anita. We make like all of our food homemade. Like that's one thing. When I became vegan, the hardest part about for me when I transitioned to being vegan was learning how to cook. I thought that I knew how to cook, and then I went vegan, and then I really learned how to cook. And now I can make everything. I can make pies, cakes, pizza crust, tortillas, even just everything I want. Like I can make anything I want because over the years I've just kind of been teaching myself how to make everything. I'm basically everybody's grandma. Well, probably one generation back now. Everybody's grandma can be as young as like 35 now, but like one generation X's parents. Yeah, so I'm basically everybody's grandma in the kitchen. Okay, I'm gonna try to color some more. Potato salad live stream. That sounds like an interesting live stream. Do I do home deliveries? Not quite yet. I'm making you guys hungry. Yeah, I have a lot of pictures on my Facebook page of some of the food that I make, and it's some of the food that my wife makes too, because she's also a fantastic cook. It's been a lot of fun over the years, learning how to cook food, learning how to make things vegan. Yeah. When I went vegan, 2 weeks before I went vegan, I didn't even know the word vegan. Like it wasn't even in my dictionary, or my vocabulary. So I had this misconception that like if you go vegan, all you eat are salads basically, but it's 100% not the case at all. I mean, you could, but it'd be a super boring palate. Vegan question. I understand not wanting to eat meat, but what's wrong with something like dairy that doesn't harm an animal? Nanette, that's actually a good question. You know, eating meat obviously means that you have to kill the animal to get it, whereas dairy, you don't have to kill the animal to get it. I just want to make something really clear. I am not vegan because of animal cruelty. I'm vegan because that diet, based on science, shows that it is the most optimal human diet to have. So I just want to make that very clear. But actually, dairy is just as bad for you, if not worse for you, than meat products. So dairy, here's just something kind of, it's a little common sense when it comes to dairy. So what is dairy? It's milk from another mammalian animal, like a cow or sometimes a goat or something else maybe. But that milk it's not designed, but it's meant by nature to take a 35-pound calf and turn it into a 400-pound cow. Like, that is what milk is supposed to do to the animal drinking it. So you can imagine that it is filled with a ton of proteins and hormones that are meant to take that 35-pound calf and turn it into a 400-pound cow. So as a human ingesting that, there can be no good from it. There can be no good from it. It has cholesterol, which destroys your arteries, clogs your arteries. Number one cause of death is heart disease. So milk is essentially liquid meat in that case, because meat also has the cholesterol and stuff. In order to provide enough milk for the population drinking it, these animals have to be forcefully impregnated, and then of course their babies are immediately taken from them. So yeah, don't eat dairy anyways. Never understood drinking milk from a cow. Yeah, drinking the fluids of any other species does seem a bit odd for humans to do. Yeah. Yeah, I'm right there with you. Dairy industry is horrible, and eating dairy is the same, sometimes worse than eating meat. Yeah, so there's a lot wrong with it, for sure. Fun conversation. Hopefully, I'm not scaring anybody away. I don't usually do this on the live stream, but I enjoy the conversation. I'm very passionate about my lifestyle, but I'm not preachy. Passionate, not preachy. I don't judge anybody based on what they eat. I mean, I spent the first 2/3 of my life eating whatever I wanted, so. I do appreciate the question, though, Nanette. It's a good question. Oh, hello, Wicked Illusions. Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen you. I'm glad you're able to make it. No, we're not. It's not too controversial. Not too controversial. I think we're all just having a respectful conversation. Nothing controversial about that. Do I drink milk substitute? Yes, I do. My favorite milk substitute is rice milk. I tried soy milk when I first went vegan. I went soy milk because it was sweeter and I could tolerate the taste. But as I slowly filtered out all of the processed foods, because not only did when I went vegan did I avoid animal products, but I also filtered out all of the processed foods. So I rarely eat anything that comes in a bag or a wrapper. So I almost never eat anything like that. On rare occasions, like maybe a bag of chips like once a month or something. So that's something that I changed. And as I removed those processed foods, I became more and more sensitive to sweet foods. So the soy milk just became too sweet for me, so I switched to unsweetened rice milk, and that's where I stick at today. And I really don't drink too much of that either. I bet you will be shocked when you finally come here in Finland. Finland is, I think, the biggest dairy using country there is. But luckily, there is also many plant-based alternatives too. Okay. Well, I look forward to coming to Finland. Can't wait for us to be able to kind of work out the logistics of our trip to Finland. Oh yeah, totally. I'm right there with you, Wicked Illusions. People definitely have strong opinions about their eating habits, for sure. Well, Tracy, I understand your predicament there, but soy products they're relatively they're relatively easy to avoid with a vegan diet. In fact, I would say that they're easier to avoid with a vegan diet than a non-vegan diet. I mean, you just don't eat tofu or soy milk and you're fine. Because I focus mainly on a whole food plant-based diet. Like in some cases, I don't even like to refer to myself as a vegan because there's so much negative connotation to that term with the stereotypes that exist. So sometimes I'll just say that I eat a plant-based diet or whole food plant-based diet. So I avoid processed food, and soy actually shows up a lot in processed food, but there's a lot of misconceptions about soy because it has phytoestrogen, which is the plant version of estrogen, but it doesn't break down in the human body to produce estrogen, and there's no actual scientific evidence to suggest that ingesting soy increases your body's production of estrogen. There's so much. There's just, regardless of the subject, there's a lot of misconceptions about everything, and I think soy is probably one of the largest dietary misconceptions. Because there's been plenty of studies. There's been plenty of studies on soy, and if you were to there's one easy way to kind of think your way into the right direction here. All you have to do is look at a country that has a high consumption rate of soy. If the country has, if soy products in any regard were to trigger or promote any form of disease, you would see that disease rise proportional to the population's consumption of soy, which you don't, because soy, actually, there's been studies that have shown that the consumption of tofu, which is soy, actually decreases the rate of cancer. So it just depends on, I guess, where you get your information. Let's see. Anyways, I think I'm gonna I think I'm going to jump off the vegan topic. I don't want to cause any argumentative conversation. So I'm going to get back to coloring a little bit. And what time? Oh goodness, it's hard to transition from this. It's hard to yeah, we are literally talking about everything but art. Yeah. Tracy, zero apologies necessary. You've been very respectful. I think everybody has been very respectful. I just don't want it to go beyond that. So it's totally cool, Tracy. You're cool. Everything's cool. We're just having a good conversation. There's just when it boils down to the science, there's arguments that can be made from both sides, which, you know, you can't, if a person hasn't yet found the information that convinced them otherwise, then, you know, there's no real conversation to be had. So it's fine. It's just best to, for me, it's exactly why I don't pressure anybody to do things. So, oh my goodness, Nanette, it's so easy. It's so easy to be afraid to eat anything. Oh my gosh, there's always like some new study coming out that like, breathing air now causes you to die. It's like, you can't even breathe. You can't even breathe now. So yeah, everything has to be taken with a grain of salt because you can't do anything without it killing you. Oh, good night, Chrissy. Yeah, I know it's getting late there in Australia. So thanks for coming by. Night Wolf, thank you so much. I'm glad that you have been inspired by my work. That's fantastic. So the main topic, the main topic that I kind of wanted to cover a little bit in this live stream, and it's funny, I haven't even mentioned it since the very beginning, but the end stages of your artwork, and it's what I refer to as like my favorite part is when I get to the end of a piece and I get to the finessing stage. Like that's my favorite. Like I have yet to find a better word than finesse. It's what I really, really enjoy. It's once you have all the information down. Okay, Anna, take care. Have a lovely day. Once you have all the information down, like I do here, except for this corner here, you can just go through with your colors, fine-tune your contrast, your lines, your details, you know, darken your shadows, splash in some colors and whatnot. That's refine. That's a pretty good word, Piotr. But refine, I don't know. Refine is a pretty good one. I'm not going to lie. That's a pretty good one. But I like finesse better because it's more fun to say, right? Like refine, do you want to refine it or do you want to finesse it? Like finessing sounds like you're making it better, where refining it just seems like kind of like you're fixing the typos or something. I like finesse. It's just more fun to say. Wow, look at all these people. Love it. How many people we got in the chat? I know you guys been chatting up a storm, but how many people we got on the live stream? I can't ever see. Wow, Rob, that was quick as can be. Finesse is fancy. Yep, totally agree. Oh, hello, Susan. Good morning to you as well. Do we have anybody in the live chat that won the giveaway? I didn't see anybody celebrating that they won the giveaway. And if you don't know whether you won the giveaway, I posted the video a little bit before, maybe like an hour or two before I went live. So you may have missed it. And if you did miss it, make sure you don't entirely miss it, because if you're one of the winners, then you'll miss claiming the prize. Oh, hello, Renate. Tyrese. I'm going to try to get these shadows on the cloth here complete and then do some blending. And I might call that a day. I've been streaming for a little while now. We've definitely had some fun conversations. Oh, Doodle Art, it's been a while since I've seen you. Looks like you changed your profile picture. Oh, thank you, Tyrese. Don't give up hope just yet, Tracy, because let me see here. I'll check my email really quick, see if I had any of the winners contact me. So far, not. So far, none of the winners from the giveaway have emailed me. So that means all 5 prizes are still available. And like I said, if they don't contact me by Monday, well, actually by Sunday, this coming Sunday, then Monday I will redraw winners and repost a video with new winners. So you're still in the game, Tracy. Don't give up. I'm rooting for you. Because I know that, you know, some people, they might come across a video that says giveaway, and then they'll click on it, watch it, see what they have to do to win the giveaway, and then they just hope that they get it, you know, and they'll just go on YouTube, type in giveaway, and then enter as many contests as they possibly can. And so what I do to avoid that from happening is I only give the winners a week. I only give the winners a week to contact me, and if they fail to do so, I draw new winners. All right, I am grabbing my brush here and doing nothing but dropping my brush on the ground. I'm going to do some blending. Blend out this layer of shadows here. Didn't enter the giveaway. Rob, what the heck? What are you doing? How did I draw the pear textures? Okay, so the pears are a perfect example of this technique that I refer to as frequency separation. And what you do is you ignore all the texture and you only create a color gradient. That would be like what's behind the texture. And then once you create that color gradient of the base layer colors, then you take your texture colors, usually your darker colors, and create the texture over top. So it's a really simple method and very, very effective in just about every subject when it comes to colored pencils or painting or pastels. Frequency separation is probably the most effective approach to creating art. And if you would like to learn more about the technique, you can always join me on Patreon, where you can watch me do these pairs in real time, take you through step by step, or you can buy my colored pencil course that I sell on my website. And the link for that is in the video description, as always. But that is how I did the pairs. That is how I did the cloth as well here. You can kind of see me, going through the process of frequency separation, where this is what the cloth looks like with just the base layers, and then I will take the texturizing layers right over top of this and go on from there. I was shown how to do that by using a blurry reference photo so my eyes didn't focus on the details. Yeah, Jamie, that's a good way. That's a good way to kind of isolate those textures, kind of make the texture details go away, and allow your mind and your eyes to just focus on the base colors behind everything. And when you get good enough at it, you don't have to do that as much. You can just kind of select your colors from the reference photo directly, and then you just color it as you go. Oh, you bought the colored pencil course? That's awesome, Donnie. I hope that you have fun with it. Hello, Silver Spirit. How am I so good? Just years of practice. Just years of practice. It doesn't take much. It doesn't take much, to be honest with you. I've actually only been using colored pencils for 4 years, but I've been drawing for a lot longer. You find techniques, you practice them, and then you apply them. That's what it's all about. Anybody can do it, and I've seen it myself personally. From the students that I teach over on my Patreon page, I've seen them turn out wonderful works of art after only a few months of using colored pencils. The background green is looking really good now. The other colors are in the drawing. Yeah, I kind of enhanced the green from the reference photo. So the reference photo has a bit of a grayer background, and I decided that I wanted it to be a bit more green so that I could complement the pears a little bit nicer, and it kind of pushes the pears more forward. I thought all YouTube subscribers were entered anyway. Oh, I'm sorry, Jamie. Yeah, I'm sorry. When I shared how to enter the giveaway, there was a link in the description that you have to click on. You have to click on that link to enter. So I'm sorry that I wasn't entirely clear on that. That's my mistake. I'm sorry. It's not just practice, it's how you practice. Reading books, watching videos, knowledge is power also. Yes, Jake, you're absolutely right. You know, practicing, you know, if you draw the same thing over and over again, you're not going to get nearly as much benefit as you would if you put yourself outside of your comfort zone. You know, draw something, color something that you've never done before. Really push yourself. That's the best way that I have found to practice. A lot of the stuff that you guys actually see me drawing, in most cases, it's the first time that I had ever drawn it. So you watched me do a deer in pastels. That was the first time I'd ever done a deer in pastels. You watched me do owl eyes in pastels. That was the first time I ever did that in pastels. I mean, a whole bunch of stuff. Nearly everything on my channel has just been me practicing. Fortunately, I've practiced enough to convince all of you that I'm good enough to teach you. So that's where I'm at. Well, thank you very much, Steve, and thank you for welcoming Silver Spirit to the live stream. I think I want to add a bit more value to this part of the cloth here. So I'm going to grab my black pencil and just add a few more pencil strokes of black in here. Get that transition from the dark shadow there. Get that showing up a little bit better. Darken up this fold here. I didn't know that what I've been doing for 35 years is called frequency separation. Well, Susanna, I coined it, frequency separation. It is not a technique that you will find described that way anywhere else. So I kind of had this conversation with my patrons last Friday. Frequency, because somebody asked me, what is frequency separation? Frequency separation is actually a technique that I learned when it comes to editing a photo. So this is a Photoshop tutorial, essentially, or a technique. It's a Photoshop technique for editing like a portrait of a person. And the technique is called frequency separation, and it has to do with like really mathy stuff within the program itself. And when I learned that, when I was going through like this photography phase where I wanted to know everything about my camera and how to take really good pictures, I came across this technique of frequency separation when editing a photo, and I was like, wait a minute, why can't I treat my artwork like this? Why can't I just take the base colors, this blurry, undefined image, do that, and then add the texture on top? And the idea of that kind of clicked with me, because when I approach my artwork, or approach art generally, I'm very analytical. Not sure if you know, Susanna, you said you were new, so possibly not, that I actually have a degree in mathematics. So I naturally think very algorithmically, meaning that I like the steps to be applicable across whatever medium, whatever image, whatever anything. And so when I learned frequency separation in photography, I then stole the term frequency separation, and now I turned it into an art strategy, basically. And so that's where that term comes from. It comes from photography, and then I kind of stole it and then teach it as art. So that's, yeah. that's that's why you would not know that it's called frequency separation, because I actually just made it up. Or I took it from photography and brought it over into the traditional art realm. Yeah, you definitely got to take a break from all the tutorials to finally pick up a pencil and draw. And that's what I hope that I am best at. I hope that I am best at inspiring people to pick their pencils up and draw again. Based on a lot of comments that I've received, a lot of messages that I've received over the past 5 years, I'd say that I'm doing a pretty good job at inspiring people to start creating again. I've had some really, really nice messages from people saying that they hadn't been inspired to draw or paint in many years, and they came across my channel, and now that they're painting again, they're very happy, and they send me an email thanking me for what I do. And honestly, I love those. I love those messages that I get from people saying that I inspire them, or when you guys tell me in the chat or whatnot. It's the greatest feeling in the world. Like, I can't express it enough. I've done my best over the years to show my appreciation to all of you, and I can only hope that my actions and my words have somewhat expressed in some fraction or another how much I appreciate all the kindness that you guys show me, how awesome you guys are hanging out with me each week and creating. So I do what I can. I do what I can, and it seems to be enough for most everybody. So that's the best feeling in the world for me. Yes, Wicked Illusions, definitely pick up those colors. I was always afraid of color too. I never colored anything until 2012. No, it might have been later than that. I think, yeah, maybe it was 2012. So I did a few paintings. I did a few paintings while I was in the Navy, but yeah, 2012 was the real year of color for me. And now over the years, since I've been working with it and gotten more comfortable with it, not only do I really, really enjoy it a lot, but I've come to understand it a lot more as well. And that feels good when it comes to colors, because they can be scary. 100% colors are scary as can be. But when you just gather a bit of understanding and a tiny bit of experience, then they just become fun. And you can play with them different ways by applying different rules like complements or triad colors, where you deal with the color wheel or something like that. How did I go from math major, Navy to art? Well, actually, Sneaks, I was in the Navy first, then I got my degree in math, and then I became a professional YouTube artist. So your ordering's just a little off there, but it's been a journey for sure. I've shared the story. I've shared the story quite a bit on my channel, and I've had several videos, in fact, kind of dedicated to the story. because if you haven't seen my kind of life story videos or my vlogs that I've created in the past, they share a lot of the journey, but essentially the short condensed version is that I graduated high school. 2 weeks later, I was in boot camp for the military because I didn't have a lot of options. So I didn't come from like a wealthy family or anything like that. I didn't have a lot of job options. I barely even graduated from high school, ironically, because I was failing math, because I just never did the homework. So about 3 weeks before I graduated, the recruiter came in, gave his sales pitch for the Navy. Honestly, if it was a Marine that came in, as opposed to a sailor that came in, I would have probably joined the Marines. So fortunately, it was the Navy guy that came in to my class to give us the sales pitch for the Navy. Next thing I did, I found myself in the recruiter's office. I was taking the ASVAB, and then bam, I graduate. Now I'm in boot camp. 5 months later, I'm on the complete other side of the United States, 3,000 miles away from everybody that I ever knew, in a completely different town where I know nobody. Then fast forward another 6 months, I am sailing around the world at 18 years. No, at that point I was 19 years old. And then before I know it, I'm getting out of the Navy. 4 years, they fly by. 3 weeks after I get out of the Navy, I'm enrolled in community college. I don't know what the heck I'm doing. I just start taking classes because I know that you need a certain amount of credits to be full-time. So I'm just taking all kinds of nonsense classes, and I'm like, I don't know what I want to do. When I first was in started college, I was like, you know what? I really like psychology. I loved psychology. And I read a lot of psychology books while I was in the Navy, and I thought I wanted to be a psychologist until I learned how bad the work environment is for psychologists. So then I transitioned to mathematics because I've always really enjoyed math, despite almost failing it. It was always a subject that came very, very easy to me, math. So I thought, well, I'll just get my degree in math and be a math teacher because they're in such high demand. And so that's the route that I took. In the meantime, I wanted an outlet. So I was always creative. I was always drawing. I was always painting and whatnot. So at the community college level, I took a painting class, which introduced me to oil painting for the first time in my life. The work that I did in that first class astounded my art teacher so much so that she allowed me a space in the open studio, which is usually reserved for art majors and studio art students, but she let me have the space for free. You're actually supposed to pay for it, but she totally let me have it free for like 3 years. It was fantastic. And I just painted. There was occasionally people that would call the school asking for a student artist so they could get discounts on like art stuff being done for them. And she actually gave like all the jobs to me because I was the most reliable artist and the most talented in the class. Even though I wasn't in the class. I took painting 1 and then skipped ahead past everybody. So there was a few odd jobs that I got to do as an artist just because she knew me. And so when I got this job to paint a sign, I had just gotten my iPad, and I had just gotten obsessed with time lapses on YouTube. So I decided to start making time lapses using my iPad, and that became my first YouTube video. Next thing I know, I get really into making YouTube videos, and it's just my new hobby. It's like I go to school, I do my homework, and I make YouTube videos. And so it was the hobby that I just decided to do. I started getting set up, I started getting a few more commissions, I made some more videos, I came up with new ideas of videos, and then I met my wife. She met me through my art. She came across my work on DeviantArt. She came to my YouTube channel. She stalked me on Facebook. When I started university at the University of Washington, we started chatting. Got to know each other over Facebook. She lived in Poland. I lived in Washington. We spent the next year and a half Skyping with one another, exclusively online. So she was my girlfriend through college that I had never met. And for the first year, after about like 6 months of that, we started planning my first trip to visit Poland and to meet her for the first time, which is actually a video on my YouTube channel, if any of you had missed that. It is there. So you can see me meet my wife for the first time ever after a year of dating online. And then after I came back, I graduated from college. I applied for my master's program, but I didn't get in. So I was like, I'm just going to take a year off. And then I decided to move to Poland to spend that year with my girlfriend, in which case we then got married, and I started doing YouTube full-time, and bam, that is how I ended up here. So that is my story, and I am going to call that done. I didn't expect to go through that story, and it took a little bit longer than I anticipated, but hopefully you enjoyed it regardless. I know many of you have you've heard this story 1,000 times. You know it like the back of your hand. Yeah, thank you for asking. I love telling that story. It's so fun. It's so fun to go back and think about all the ridiculous things that led up to like this moment right here, and having the time of my life with all of you great people in the chat. So thank you for asking. Yeah, a little bit of bonus. So you have math skills and you're teaching art, and can balance your bank account. 100% balance my bank account. Yeah, definitely. That's how I make a living. That's how I make a living as an artist, is by keeping everything square when it comes to my my money. That actually, the funny thing, I've shared this before way in the past, but when I first started doing this and I moved to Poland and I wasn't making really any money on YouTube or with my art in general, I was actually spending most of my days at the casino counting cards, playing blackjack. And when I first came to move to Poland, I spent like 3 months here when I first moved, before I went back to the United States for a little bit. And in the 3 months that I was here, I cleared about 15,000 from the local casino. There was only one casino here in Katowice, but I took about 15,000 from them over a span of 3 months playing blackjack. And then I left. I had to leave, go back to the United States. I came back 2 months later. No joke, I cannot make this up. Actually, I could, but why? The casino had went out of business. So I moved to Poland, killed it at this casino for 3 months that I spent here, and made about 15,000, and then left Poland for 2 months, came back, the casino's out of business. I swear to you, I'm not making it up. 100% not making it up. But anyways, like I said, that is going to be it for today. Thank you all so much for coming by and hanging out. It was super fun. Loved it. Loved it. Today was awesome. Stay creative. If you're not already in the Unmask Art family Facebook page, I do have the link for that in the description, and I will post, probably not this week, maybe next week or something, I'll post another thing about leaving your artwork for the critiques, so you can share some of your finished work, and then I'll bring them on for the critique that I do at the beginning, critique some of your guys' work. I enjoyed seeing it, especially yours, Rob. It was so awesome. Other than that, for those of you that support me on Patreon, I'll see you this Thursday. I'm not sure what we're doing, but you'll find out real soon. And everybody have a fantastic week, and I'll see you next time. Take care. Peace.